Just east of Leeds city centre's bustling retail district lies Quarry Hill, an area now celebrated for its vibrant culture and artistic presence. The current site hosts facilities including Leeds Playhouse, the Northern Ballet Theatre, BBC Studios and Leeds City College. But in 1938, this site was home to something entirely different, a structure that once proudly dominated the Leeds skyline and shaped the lives of generations to come. This was the Quarry Hill Flats. Prior to the construction of Quarry Hill Flats, the area became infamous for its slum dwellings and high crime rates from 1880 onwards. Local authorities couldn't accommodate the poor in dwellings where they could afford to live. Overcrowding was rampant, with families crammed into small, unsanitary houses that lacked basic resources such as running water, adequate heating, or proper sewage systems. Reoccurring issues were constant for the working class, but a new era for Leeds was impending. R.A.H. Livett was the architect and pioneer of modernist social housing. From 1933, when he arrived in Leeds, the new young director of housing began designing high-density estates of social flats. He prepared designs for over 1,000 dwellings. However, the only flats built were those at Quarry Hill. They didn't come much grander than the Quarry Hill Flats. At the time, it was the largest social housing complex in Europe, providing homes for over 3,000 people. The estate, consisting of 938 flats, was one of Leeds' most prominent housing developments until the 1950s. Built during a time when industrial cities like Leeds faced significant challenges in providing adequate housing for working class families, the flats offered a new standard of living. For many residents, moving into the estate marked their first experience with an indoor bathroom, with each family having its own flat, spacious, clean and well maintained, providing a marked improvement over previous living conditions. As post-war flats later came to construction around the city, these drew off the demand for central area flats. And for the first time, Quarry Hill began to properly fulfil its intended function of serving people cleared from slums. The design of the communal housing complex was modern and provided cutting-edge amenities for the time. But what did the former residents think of this?
With everything there, you know, bathroom, where we had to go in Woodhouse, we had to go right to the top of the house for a bath. They were all on one level. They told me, when they first moved in there, they kept calling the bath, they wondered what it was for. Yeah. We don't get washed in that, you know.
Every week, from I being about 9, I used to go to the wash house. First with my mother, and then with myself, because she said there were all scandal mongers who went to the wash house.
There were these big doors, and I remember you used to pull them out, and once your washing had come out of the washer, you swung over these rails and just push it back in, and I remember that, yeah.
The planned concept to introduce societal housing paved its place, and with only 14% of the site taken up by multiple complexes, younger residents of the flats were able to take full advantage of the communal space available to them.
You could go down and you just all played together. Yeah, it was a lovely time.
Everything was running smoothly in Quarry Hill, but 30 years after its construction, problems began to emerge. Loose slabs and corroding steelwork would put pressure on the local council to amend these issues, but this became an ever-growing challenge. Residents often sought to the repairs themselves. These acts of self-sufficiency and adaptation symbolised resistance to the institutional failure to maintain living conditions. They formed a tight-knit community, and based on my investigation, it is evident that this community was truly fused. Countless interactions with prior residents and relatives are present online to this day. The former residents often recall their time at Quarry Hill with nostalgia, countering the public perception of the flats as a failed experiment. However, with refusal to repair the flats, the council made the decision to demolish them for good. Despite campaigns from residents against the demolition, the flats saw an end and took 3 years to be demolished from 1975.
Around about 14 years I've lived here, and the place is alright. I liked it here, and I don't want to leave as a matter of fact, but I've got to go. As far as I'm concerned, for me, for my money, they should have never been pulled down. They should have left us where we were. and just modernised them.
Responsibility for the decline can be attributed to multiple parties, including Leeds City Council, central government, and the limitations of the architectural approach itself. As the owners of Quarry Hill Flats, Leeds City Council failed to commit the resources needed for repairs and maintenance, agitated by the central government, who instead prioritised new developments. Quarry Hill weren't the only ones in this situation. Several other housing complexes across the UK and internationally experienced similar rejection and neglect by authorities. All were ambitious social housing schemes, often modernist and high density, intended to solve housing shortages and improve working class living conditions. Over time, however, many fell into disrepair, were stigmatised and ultimately rejected by policymakers and society. Overall, it seems that the Quarry Hill Flats were a temporary solution to a permanent issue. These unenforced actions from higher authorities left the residents with feelings of absence and unaccountability.
Community-wise, just lost everything. You know, 1 or 2 people moved in our area, but you didn't just have to live in a particular house in Quarry Hill to be friends with people. I had friends all over Quarry Hill, you know, and you just lost all that community spirit.
As soon as you went through that arch, you knew you were home. Even though you were in the arch, you hadn't even opened your flat door, you hadn't even pulled the block door open at the bottom. You knew you were home, and it didn't matter. You knew you were safe.
Happy times. Very, yeah. Good times.
The demolition of Quarry Hill Flats marked the end of an era, leaving former residents with a sense of disconnection and a loss of trust in the authorities, echoing the struggles faced by those who lived in the area a century earlier. Its true legacy lies not in its physical structure, but in the community, a resilient core that, for a time, turned a bold architectural vision into a home. As a symbolic chapter in Leeds' history, Quarry Hill Flats remains a testament to both ambition and the enduring spirit of Leeds. While some lessons from the collapse of projects like Quarry Hill Flats have been learnt, modern regeneration efforts often result in gentrification and displacement, rather than genuine improvement for existing societal housing residents. Issues of funding, societal exclusion, and prioritisation of profit over people continue to undermine the potential for equitable, sustainable housing solutions. To truly resolve these issues, policymakers must focus on protecting existing communities, increasing public housing stock, and ensuring redevelopment serves those most in need, not just those who can afford it.